Hi everyone. Just wanted to give you an idea of what this documentary is going to be about, The Great Betrayal. A lot of people are talking about, are we going to be breaking the Official Secrets Act? As in, are we going to be divulging information that no one should know about? Not at all. Everything's on the public record. One example would be something I want you to look at now, which would be the Birmingham pub bombings. That will be one aspect of the investigation. And the way that we'll be running this, and there'll be about probably 7 or 8 different cases that we'll examine in total. And this one, the Birmingham pub bombings, is, as you're probably aware, Michael Hayes, who self-confessed Birmingham pub bomber. You've got Kieran Conway, both living in Dublin. Kieran Conway, a practicing solicitor. I think he was quartermaster for the exercise. And then you've got Michael Hayes, who was one of the bomb makers, or certainly one of the bomb planters anyway. So we will be confronting these individuals. We will go and confront them on their doorstep, and we will effectively approach them about their actions, look for an interview. We won't get an interview, but we'll hound them until we do, and until such a time that the police basically come along and move us on, we will follow them around everywhere they go, asking them, reminding them of their atrocity, and they're reminding them of the death and destruction that they caused, and making sure that young people of today know what these individuals did. And I want you to look at this, because this is just one aspect of what we're going to do. Birmingham pub bombing sits very close to my heart. My parents moved to Birmingham when I was 2 years of age, and it's the city of, not the city of my birth, but it's the city that I grew up in, and the city I joined the British Army from. And I will never forget, as a 10-year-old, in 1974, when my father was told he couldn't go to work for no other reason that he was Irish. He'd worked in the same factory since 1966 as an engineer, and he was told, Billy, stay at home for a couple of days. Honestly, you don't want to be here. And there was one particular guy who never spoke to my father again, simply for one reason: he was an Irishman. And the two of them had got on very well before the Birmingham pub bombings. So, bottom line is that the IRA and their evil creeps that they are have caused a lot of devastation around this wonderful country, both here on the mainland and in Northern Ireland. And what we are going to do with this documentary is we're going to tell the story that no one's told before. Everyone knows about these incidents, like the Birmingham pub bombings, but what they haven't done is they've never confronted the people responsible. And we will do that. And we'll also go and confront the likes of Harry Maguire, responsible for killing the 2 corporals, along with Alex Murphy, 2 corporals in the Royal Signals back in 1988. And we've got a few little gems as well that will be in the programme.
The bombs were left in the heart of Birmingham on a Thursday night, placed inside pubs to cause destruction. Explosions that led to 21 deaths. In the same year, 1974, Mick Hayes took part in this funeral for a hunger striker in London. He was a well-known Republican, an admitted IRA bomb maker who was convicted of paramilitary offences in the Republic of Ireland. And now, 4 decades after the murders in Birmingham, Mick Hayes has emerged again to admit he was part of the group that bombed the city.
I was a participant in the IRA's activities in Birmingham. How clear can I make it?
Did you plant the bombs?
I was a participant in the IRA's campaign in England.
But you're not answering the question. Did you plant the bombs?
I'm giving you the only answer I can give you.
Mick Hayes has in the past been questioned and named as a suspect in the bombings, but he's never been charged. Even now he won't say what role he played in the IRA attack, but he says he takes collective responsibility for it.
And I apologise, not only for myself, I apologise for all active Republicans who had no intention of hurting anybody, and sympathise with you.
And the relatives, again, the relatives will say that you have blood on your hands.
I know they will say that. And from their point of view, I can justify that. I don't shirk my responsibility in that direction.
A group of men were charged and found guilty of the bombing. but it was a famous miscarriage of justice. And the convictions of the men who became known as the Birmingham Six were eventually overturned.
For 16 and a half years, we've been used as political scapegoats.
West Midlands Police said tonight that the investigation into the 21 murders remains open. One of those who died was Maxine Hambleton. Her sister Julie was among a group of relatives who watched the interview with Mick Hayes this afternoon.
They bring the focus of the war.
His words and apology caused nothing but anger.
He's a coward, short and simple. He reckons that he'd rather die than be an informer, but he's more than happy to take collective responsibility for the murder of 21 innocents in Birmingham.
Mick Hayes avoided many questions, but he claims mistakes led the IRA to give bomb warnings too late, and that he personally defused a third bomb left in Birmingham city centre that night.
The explosions, they were horrific. They were terrible. It shocked the IRA. When we found out what had happened, he defused the third bomb on the Hagley Road.
Who defused it?
I did.
Many in modern-day Birmingham will question why Mick Hayes has come forward now, particularly as no one has ever been held legally responsible for murdering the 21 people who died on a night out in this city. Chris Buckler, BBC News.
"21 names, 21 dead. This is a memorial to them in the grounds of St Philip's Cathedral in Birmingham city centre. Yet their deaths have never been fully examined or explored in a coroner's court. Now, after 43 years, fresh inquests have been ordered into the deaths of the Birmingham pub bombing victims in November 1974. Because of the passage of time, some of the relatives of the victims of the pub bombings have now sadly passed away. And one or two other families feel they can't relive the horrors of that night again. But the majority of the families are very anxious, indeed very determined, that the inquests will be exhaustive, thorough, and leave no stone unturned in terms of finding out exactly what happened on that dreadful night of horror way back in 1974. Two pubs were attacked on November the 21st, 1974. The Mulberry Bush, which was in the base of the Rotunda, and the nearby tavern in the town. The attacks happened shortly after 8 o'clock. A phone call was made to the Birmingham Post and Mail and is recorded at 11 minutes past 8. But the caller was ambiguous in what he said. He said that there was a bomb in the Rotunda and there was a bomb in the tax office. But the thing that gave the call its legitimacy and its urgency was this. The caller used a recognised IRA passcode. Unfortunately, he gave nowhere near enough time for the emergency services to respond properly. The first bomb went off at 17 minutes past 8, just 6 minutes later. The police had rushed to the scene. Regrettably, they made the wrong decision when they got here. Because when they got here, they immediately went to the top of the Rotunda and began an evacuation from the top, rather from the base, where the bar was crowded with people having an early evening drink. As they were clearing the building from the top, the bomb went off. Nowadays there's nothing to indicate that this is where the mulberry bush was. There are no plaques or memorials or anything like that. The ground floor is shopping and above are high-class residential flats. The tavern in the town is literally just a stone's throw away from the mulberry bush as the crow flies. But come with me and we'll walk round. On the night that the bombing has happened, the city centre was very busy. It was full of people. And the reason for that was this, that it was the penultimate payday before Christmas. This is November the 21st, 1974. So workers were leaving their jobs in the early evening and taking the opportunity to have a drink before they went home. And the pubs were crowded with people. They were both popular with young people, but I guess the mulberry bush had an older clientele, and the tavern in the town attracted younger folk. One of the attractions about the tavern in the town was that it was an underground bar, which seemed to draw the crowds in. Now we are walking down to the tavern at the town at a fairly slow pace, but on that night in November, people were running down here, policemen in particular, because the mulberry bush explosion had just happened, and they realised that the tax office, which was above the tavern in the town, was likely to go up as well. So they were literally tearing down here in a bid to get to the bar and anyone in the offices above to evacuate them as soon as possible. Unfortunately, the second one went off at 27 minutes past 8. The impact of the explosion was so great that at the Odeon New Street, where films were being shown, the films were immediately halted because debris fell from the ceiling and crowds of people who had been inside immediately began to evacuate. And here we are at the scene of the second explosion. This is where the tavern in the town used to be. And again, like the mulberry bush, there's no indication or nothing to indicate that it was ever here. But the devastation was equally as severe as in the first explosion. In total, 21 people were killed and almost 200 were injured. There was a bus that was passing by at the same time as the explosion, which showed all its windows being blown out. Because the city was logjammed with traffic, ambulances couldn't get to the scene quickly enough. So taxi drivers ferried the critically injured to hospital in a bid to get them treatment as soon as possible.